Good day, doodlers. Welcome to Draw Cartoons. As requested today, we're going to learn how to draw Rustlord from Fortnite. I'm slowly getting around to your requests one by one, so keep them coming. Make sure you watch the whole video today. I've got some neat tricks to show you. You're going to need a pencil, paper, an eraser, and a Sharpie to go over your sketch with. Let's go. Let's get started. But first, if you want to learn to draw the fast and easy way, make sure you subscribe to the channel and ring that bell. Let's begin. So we begin every drawing with an oval for the head. So with your pencil, just start to draw in the shape of an oval. That's where our head's going to go. Just like that, lots of kind of small strokes to get the shape built up. And then cut it in half right down the middle, just like you're chopping an egg in half. And then carry on a bit further until you're about 2.5 heads in height in total, maybe a bit less than that. And then once you get to the bottom, just draw a horizontal line, just kind of cutting it off, and that's going to be where the floor is. That's where our character is stood. So then cut that line in half about here, so we've got about as much length here as we have here, and that's going to be where we separate the torso and the legs. So once you've drawn that, we can just draw in gently the shape of these shoulders, come down at a slight diagonal angle, and then marry it up with that line that we just drew to cut the guideline in half. So another shoulder here, come down diagonally, and then into the middle, right there. Now let's quickly draw in the shapes of the legs. So I'm going to start here at this hip, I'm going to come out and then down a bit, and then finish with a sharp edge that comes out like that. That's where the foot is, and that's the knee. So obviously because he has two legs, we're going to do that on the other side too. So let's come out, go down a bit, get that curve in there, and then jut out a bit at the bottom where the foot is. And now we're going to draw the inside leg. So we're going to start here, just going to kind of draw a shape that curves up like this. Let's draw a line across here for where the legs meet, and we'll draw the inside of the other leg. Now we're just kind of building guidelines at the moment. We're going to draw on top of all of this later, but we're just kind of building up the shape to begin with, and then we'll add in all the details. So let's draw in some arms. Carrying on from this shoulder here, just going to draw a line that curves down, stops about here. I'll cut across it just like this for where the wrist is going to go, and then I'll just draw a line back up to meet with the torso, a little armpit there. So again on the other side, curve down a bit, cut across the where the wrist is, and then bring it back up to the torso, just like that. Now we'll draw a small hand shape on the end of each hand, on the edge of each arm rather, hands on hands apparently. So come away from here with a small bump, and then bring it back in a little bit. Now that's the thumb, so once you've done that, draw a line that goes across it like that, and then coming from here, we're going to draw 3 curves. One that comes around like this, another one like that, and then one final one which curves back around to our wrist. Now I've actually noticed I'm going to make this arm a little bit longer, so let me just get my eraser. Let me just move that out there. So if you've made your arm a bit too short, it's a good time to stop and correct it. So I'm going to make my arm a little bit longer. It was a bit shorter than the other arm. Come across and just make sure that kind of matches up. It doesn't matter if you make any kind of mistakes at this point, because you are working with your pencil, so you can very easily erase anything you don't like or change shapes. It's pretty flexible at this point. So I'm just drawing in another hand shape, same as last time, but kind of like you're looking in a mirror. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 bumps, and we end up with these clenched, closed fist looks on each side. There we go. So I'd say it's about a good time to start adding in some details. So let's start with the head. I'm going to cut it across the middle up here. Well, it's not quite the middle really, is it? We've got kind of 1/3 left here and 2/3 of the head here. So make sure it's uneven like that. And then once you've drawn that, we can draw the shield on the front of the face. So I'm going to draw a small curve that comes up from the left here and then touches the guideline that I just drew. And the same on the other side. Once you've drawn that, we can draw the bottom of the mask. So we'll start about here where the oval begins to curve down. We'll curve this shape down a bit, and then just bring it right through the middle of the head, and see how that guideline acts as like a line of symmetry. We know how it should look on both sides thanks to that guideline. That's why we draw that in. So just kind of curve that back up to the side of the head again. And now we can draw some circles. There's some kind of spots that he sees through. So there's one here, and then one just below that, and then leave some space here for some more. There's kind of a pattern to these dots, isn't there? They're kind of evenly spaced out in diagonals. So just kind of draw them in like this, lots of small circles. Got to make sure he can see and, you know, actually breathe through his mask. And then there's a small pattern that comes up diagonally like this. Nothing big. And again, it's on the same, on the other side. There we go. Now there's a small curve on either side of the head, just near the top of the mask. And that's how it kind of attaches to whatever he's wearing underneath it, the helmet. So speaking of the helmet, we can just add some details to it. I'm going to add a spike here. Just a small curve with a point at the top. And then another kind of point going over the back of the helmet, if you can kind of visualize that. So another curve here. And then a point just kind of going behind it. Just like that. There would be another spike, but we can't really see it because it's hidden behind the helmet there. So just drawing a stripe here. There's a big red stripe down the middle of his helmet. This is all a red stripe here. That. So just drawing those lines there to show that. You can colour it in later if you really want to. And then there's a small steel jaw line at the bottom of the mask. So just kind of drawing this curvy shape here, just kind of going along our guideline. And there you go. You should end up with a kind of like a jaw on each side. There we go. So the helmet, well, the mask is pretty much done. So we'll move on to the torso now. Torso is a bit trickier, but we'll start by coming out here. This is the kind of the flared collar, and then you bring it back in towards the middle and finish about there. And we'll do the same on the other side. Let's bring it back up, going over the shoulder, spiking out, and then going behind the head. And then inside this we can draw his blue scarf. So that's just kind of a series of curves that kind of dip underneath the head. You can make them a bit uneven if you want, because it's cloth, maybe it's moved around in the wind or something. But I find it easy just to draw a few kind of lumps and bumps around the head. I'm going to make that one a bit wider there. Don't worry about lines overlapping, they're just guidelines. So any lines you don't want to keep later, you can just erase them or not go over them with your Sharpie. So now we're going to quickly draw in the strap for his backpack. So going along here, a diagonal line that goes around his middle, and just draw a line back up going over his shoulder. On this strap there's a small bandage pattern here, so we're just drawing a rectangle on the actual strap, and then a couple of diagonal lines going along it. And at the upper part of the strap there's a few spikes sticking out of it. He's not too concerned with health and safety, is he? Wearing all these spikes. I certainly wouldn't wear spikes like that myself. So we've got another strap just kind of tucked here underneath the armpit. There we go. And now for some of the patterns on his jacket, a bit intricate, but now that we've drawn the strap in, the rest of it can actually be quite easy. So starting about here, draw a line that kind of flicks across to the side of his torso, and then another one right above it, again just going to the side of the torso. There's a small kind of like a pin badge, like a button badge, it kind of sits right between those lines that we just drew. Now for the shoulders, his shoulders are a bit padded out. It's the only thing safe about his outfit, to be honest. So just a small kind of bump on the shoulder and bring it back into the inside of the arm. I'll just quickly show you that again here. So just coming over the shoulder like that, and then bring it back in towards the arm. So there's a blue strap around his bicep here. I'm going to give it a bit of a curve so we get this impression it's going around the arm. Okay, see if you can do that yourself. And then there's a small kind of line here showing where his glove begins. A small pattern here. And then right where his wrist is, there's one more kind of strap going around to separate the hand from the rest of the arm. So try and draw that in there. So I'll just show you that again on the other side. The other side is actually a bit easier now. You've drawn the shoulder in. To be honest, the only part you have to worry about is the bit here where the wrist attaches, or where the wrist is holding the hand in place, I guess you could say. So just draw that in there. And now we're ready for the final detail of the hands. So on the back of each hand, there and there, I'm going to start with this one. There's a rectangle, just like that. And sticking out of that rectangle is a few spikes, more spikes. Really, really crazy about spikes, this guy. So 1, 2, 3, and on the other side again. 1, 2, 3. Don't worry if your drawing's looking messy, that's fine. If anything, I encourage it because you're working with a pencil, and it's quite fun to kind of get messy with your pencil because it means you have more freedom for drawing. You can kind of play around with the shapes until you get what you really want. So just drawing a box here for a satchel that's sitting on his hip. I'm going to draw a line here, and that kind of gives us the impression that the satchel is 3D, because when I draw this line here, this is the lid of the satchel. So we can see this part's facing us, but this bit here, this is all kind of facing this way a bit, if that makes sense. So this line here, this kind of shape here, really helps to kind of give the impression that it's 3D. So there's just a missing detail on the torso I want to add. There's a small strap here, just a very thin rectangle, and then underneath it, there's a vertical line that goes down, and it just sits underneath the strap there, and it follows down to the very, very bottom of the torso. And there you go, your torso's finished, or at least the sketch of it is. So we've got the legs to tackle now. So let's draw a line across here from the left all the way to the right, and just going underneath that satchel that we drew a moment ago. And once you've drawn that, we'll draw the buckle right in the middle. That big central guideline helps us tell where the middle of the belt is going to be. And let's just draw a couple of straps in there. There we go, that kind of holds the belt in place. And then underneath that is another belt. I don't know what it is about Fortnite characters and belts, but they really, really like wearing them. So another buckle on this belt underneath. Another couple of straps. And there we go, so the belt's done already. Now the legs, the final hurdle. Hope you're ready for this, we're almost there. So I think it's best if we draw in some of the bigger shapes on this first. On the hip, there is this rectangle just kind of sitting out like that, just resting along the thigh, I suppose you could say. It's not quite his hip really. And then there's a few straps just holding it to his leg, like wrapped around his leg, just like this. There's one at the bottom of the shape and one roughly in the middle of it, and it just kind of wraps around his leg like that. Now once you've drawn that, you can draw in his leg armor, his shin pad. So you can draw a shape that points out like this and then goes down to his ankle. Once you've drawn that, let's just draw it in the leg a bit, come up, and then meet there. So we end up with this almost like a bubble writing number 1. I guess I could show you here like that, but like a bubble writing. Let's get rid of that, don't really need that anymore. So we obviously need to do that on the other side. He's wearing armor on both sides. So again, kind of pointing out from the knee, comes down, and when you get to the ankle, across, up, and then just make sure they meet up like that. Now, the armor obviously has to attach to the legs some way, so we're going to draw a strap that goes around it and fixes to the leg just like that. So the other one needs to be held in place, another strap just like that. Maybe there's one up here holding it in place. Maybe there's another one on this piece of armor. Sometimes more detail just makes the drawing look better, but it's possible to overdo it. So here we've got a small piece of cloth that's kind of fastened on. It's kind of sewn it on. Maybe it came off during one of his battles or something. So all that is just a small shape sticking out on the thigh, and then a couple of threads like that just kind of holding it in place. So finally the shoes. I think it's probably best if you draw the soles of the shoes first because they're so big. It's just simply a flat shape right along the bottom of the shoe. One there and one there. Maybe it'll look a little bit better if we go outside of the shoe a bit like that, just kind of sticking out either side, just like that. And then a finishing touch, there's a small piece of armor resting on the top of each of the shoes like that. Just kind of draw a diagonal box kind of sitting on it, then a line underneath to show a pattern on the shoe itself. So we just need to divide now quickly where the boots actually start, because right now it's just one big continuous leg, isn't it? We can just draw a line here. The boot starts about here on the character, just inside the kind of shin pad there, and just draw a line in there. So we've got a lot of overlapping lines, but not to worry, that's pretty normal when it comes to sketching out character, because you want to kind of plan out all those shapes. But you'll be pleased to know our sketch is actually done at this point. So get your Sharpie ready, go over all those lines you want to keep. Don't go over this guideline here, don't bother with that, any of those guidelines. Anything that overlaps, just be careful about that. But yeah, go over those lines that you want to keep, and you'll end up with an awesome drawing of Rustlord. While you're going over your sketch with your Sharpie, it might be a great time to correct any last mistakes you spot as you go and fix them. And there you go, your very own drawing of the formidable Rustlord. Before you go, it would be great to see your artwork in my brand new Discord channel. Hit the link in the description below now to join the channel and start sharing right away. Until next time.